I started supplying restoration kits for SubZero refrigerators, 20 and 30-year-old units, newer too if they want, but concentrating on 20 and 30-year-old units to restore them because customers were getting SubZero factory authorized service to come in, and techs were telling them, no, we can't fix it. You have to buy a new one for $18,000. Well, the customers, it's nonsense. The customers didn't want to do that. They don't want to buy a new one, or they can't, or whatever. They want to fix their old unit because it's still in great shape, and except it's older, and restoring the sealed system and the other operational parts probably get them another 10 to 20 years. Um, so the difficulty, though, and I've been doing this, supplying them all over the world, actually. Um, the difficulty has been getting a service company technicians to come out and do the repair because they would call. I told them you can't call up and ask them, say you have the parts, because they're just going to tell you no, we can't warranty and they don't want to do the job. So I've instructed them pretty successfully to not go online and try to find review sites and stuff, but to talk to their friends and neighbors and coworkers, and just ask them, do you have anybody who does refrigerator repair, that's fixed your refrigerator? And they inevitably, if somebody's had a repair, and possibly even somebody would even be better is that somebody's got somebody that they've been working with for many years, and that would be the best referral. Um, as soon as they come in, they've been referred by a friend, so their technician's comfortable. You can trust them because your friend trusts them, and it just breaks the ice, makes it just a much better situation. And then you also have information from your friend or whoever it was that referred them as to whether you can trust them and everything else, and that they're not going to rip you off and that kind of thing. So it makes it much better all the way around. Um, the situation sometimes, I end up getting in the middle of it, offering technical assistance to the technicians because they may be. I had never worked on SubZero before, but then I just tell the customer, let them call me. I manufacture SubZero, or I manufacture some evaporators for SubZero refrigerators. I don't work for SubZero. Tell them that. Um, and I'm also a service company of 40 plus years. And I'm not going to tell them what to do. I tell them to tell them that as well, because techs don't like to be told what to do. But if they have any tips or anything that they need to make it successful, because they've never worked on a certain model or whatever, then not a problem. I'll be available when they do the repair, and it's worked out very well because I constantly have techs calling up, the ones that are down to earth, call up and say, customer told me to call you, and yeah, I've never worked on this one, and so we just talk like tech to tech, and it's they've got questions for me, and I share information, and it becomes a good situation where they're comfortable now. They've got their questions answered, and there's no uneasiness. They go through the repair and get it done. And if they have any other questions, they call me back or whatever. And so we work together to get it done for the customer. I supply the parts to them. They supply the labor, and it's a good situation all the way around. Um, this is a service call where this is a different Chris, because I've got some YouTube videos on about Chris, a Chris in Colorado Springs. that was a disaster. The guy doesn't know what he's doing, and neither does his boss, Jeff. They just destroyed the refrigerator. I had to fly out there and fix it. Um, but this is a Chris, really nice guy in Washington, Seattle, um, Seattle, Washington, and they found him, and he was very just the way a tech ought to be, just really cooperative. Cooperative is not the right word. He was really interested in talking to me, and he had questions for me, and just a guy that a technician that is not, oh, I know everything, and that kind of attitude, and a lot of them have that attitude. Um, and he made a few mistakes along the way. Um, One that I've never seen before. I felt kind of bad for him. And he actually installed the evaporator kind of like upside down, and it matters. He put the inlet in. I'm not going to give it away right now, but you're going to see the first frame, first few frames. You're going to see the evaporator, and I look at the evaporator and see if you can figure out really quick. You should be able to if you're a seasoned tech, experienced tech. Figure out what he did wrong. It's pretty obvious. Just looking at it really quick. I kind of gave a clue already, but it was creating a freezing condition. He eventually, we found out he had also left a leak, a really, really tiny leak. So it kept losing Freon, but this was a Zoom session with him where he was just not sure what was going on, and the customer was, this was early on. This was after I think the first time he came back after he had done the repair, the restoration, compressor, evaporator, heat exchanger, dryer, and it was freezing, but the evaporator was not totally frosted. So most techs would say, that doesn't sound right. But there's a reason, and you'll see what it is. It didn't take long for me to figure it out. I'm extremely good at diagnostic. I've been doing this 40 plus years, and very, very good on sealed systems. So I walked him through it, but then I got a little bit sensitive too, because one of the things that techs, you got to be careful of when you're in a customer's home is you really don't want to be admitting too many things wrong in front of the customer. They lose confidence in you. And for the customers that might listen to this, it's not that we're not going to be honest with you. It's just that we just want to fix the problem, correct our mistakes, and it really doesn't do any good to say everything that we might mess up. Bottom line is that we correct the mistakes and get it resolved for you, and then you have no more problems. So there's kind of a technician time where we just do what we have to do, and it's not something that we need to bother you with. Like I said, it's about getting it done for you, and that's what you want as well. You don't want us to have to come back. So that's what this is about. In here, I do suggest that Chris and I go out and talk about this away from the customer. Tech to tech. Basically trainer on my part. That's what I am. And that way I'm not making him feel uncomfortable with the customer sitting there listening that he screwed up and that kind of thing. It's just not productive. So that's why I suggest that. And Chris appreciated it. Techs always appreciate it. Any employee that you have to correct in any business, could be a restaurant, whatever, you never correct them in front of customers or other employees. It's just something you just don't do. And that's the same thing here. Um, I knew what he did wrong, and I wanted to share that with him away from the customer, so it wasn't like he was being put down or he wasn't being embarrassed in front of a customer. So um, at the same time, I was challenged with the thought that correcting this, maybe we might be able to get away with doing something a little bit different to adjust to. I didn't think it would work that way, but I was feeling bad for him to have to redo and reinstall this evaporator. So with the problems he'd already had with it. So I was going to attempt to see if we couldn't resolve this thermodynamically, um, because it's such a SubZeros have just a different design than pretty much any other unit. It's more so about it's slight airflow, but it's all contained in one area right in the back wall. So it's quite different than most other brands, where they have channels they have to go through and all that kind of stuff. Not the case in SubZeros. It just the air circulates through that back wall, and that's it, through the evaporator. So I felt like thermodynamically, this may work. He didn't have time to do it right then and there, right? So I wanted to try this to get the customer to buy. As it turns out, he needed to come back after that, and it did stop the freezing, but he went back and corrected the installation of the evaporator. So this is my interaction. I do this quite often, not only with customers. So if you have a customer has a situation they want some help with, but I also do it with technicians. And if it's a sealed system assistance repair, one of my videos is 11 hours I helped a tech. It wasn't even a tech. It was a disaster. It was a customer that wanted to be a tech. And there's a charge, and I have a pricing on appliance repair. Virtualhotline.com is where I have charges for seal system, and then also non-sealed system, just any other appliance. That's actually about half the rate, because there's a lot more involved with sealed systems. So this is an example of what I'm kind of merging into more so, because I can't do actual service anymore. But I can still be extremely effective helping people, not only customers, but technicians. So if you're a tech and you need some assistance, let me know. There's no challenge that I won't be able to help you resolve. I've worked on pretty much everything, and I'm really good at follow-up and cleanup calls where other techs have difficulty and you're not sure. I just have the mindset of returning it back to original condition, and that's where it kind of gets past some techs, because they're like, oh, maybe this is wrong, maybe this is wrong, and you start going into other tangents. You can't do that. You got to stick to what the original problem was, and you have to trust your diagnosis. And that's where techs get in trouble, is they start questioning their diagnosis. Don't do that. Unless you're new and you're not sure really what was wrong in the first place, then of course you're going to have to. But I can help you out with that, and I'll be asking a lot of questions, because we got to get down to exactly what's going on, and that's what this is all about here. Is I did quite a bit of help with him. This is only one of the Zoom sessions. There was several of them, but he was a good guy. He ended up getting a back injury, and then was unable to complete this in the long run. But this is a good example of what I do, and I systematically go through, and I also protect the tech. um, and also involve the customer and let the customer know what's going on eventually um, when we know, when I have answers. So um, take a look at the video. This is what I can offer. This is what I go through quite often in helping customers and techs. Okay.
There? I don't think we met before. You hear
Hello?
me?
Yes, I hear you now.
I don't think we met before.
Uh,
So let me see the evaporator. Is that the capillary coming down?
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah. Look at the drawing I gave you.
Okay. Okay.
See the difference?
Yes. Trying,
You read
I'm
what I
looking at
wrote
it.
also in the text,
I'm sorry?
and then read what I wrote in the text also.
Okay, so is that evaporator backwards?
The capillary comes in at the top left.
Ah,
You see that, and then where they discarded the what they call accumulator, which is not accumulator, it's that tube.
Yep.
Your suction line comes down to this front center to the bottom. So it actually inlets to the top from the left, top left, and then goes down and then comes back from the bottom up to the compressor, back to the compressor.
okay, so I got
She's right
to
there.
look at those two.
I want to ask her a question if she's there.
Yes. Ma'am? Ma'am? Do you have a minute? I've got Mike on video here.
Hello.
Hello.
What do you think?
So, did the freezing, your chickens, did the chickens start freezing later or just from the beginning?
The eggs, actually, it was not the first day, but then after that, it just started getting colder and colder. Yes.
Okay. And this has been about,
It's been about 2 weeks now.
I was
Yeah.
gone all last week, so Rick he just kept turning it up and down.
Playing with thermostat,
okay.
turning it down a little bit at a time, but at one point I went.
Tell him to come a little bit closer because I can't hear.
I said, when Susan was out of town,
Yeah.
I would check it, I'd open it a couple times a day. We've got a little thermostat in there. And I kept turning it down and down and down, and finally got to less than 1, and apparently the whole thing shut down.
So right away, it seemed like it was okay. And then it just gradually just kept getting colder and colder.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, it took 2 or 3 days probably to get the thing, to stabilize on a temperature.
Right.
So we just, I think it was on maybe 4 when you left. And we just kind of kept turning it down a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And again, when you open it up, if you wait 2 minutes, our little thermostat that was sitting in there, of course, would move up fairly quickly because it was room temperature air. So
Right.
I would say it. I would say it probably initially was not where we wanted it to be. I mean, it again, it didn't show up for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, I'm just trying, that's what I'm trying to do, just get a gauge, just from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, it wasn't out of the box, but then again, the thing had been off for a
Right,
couple weeks, so,
We didn't
they-
put anything in it for 48
Right.
hours. Had to wait, so we didn't put anything in it for 48 hours.
yeah, and we didn't do anything for 2 days, and then it was another,
there's such a small cavity that they cool down really quick. Overnight, they're stabilized. I mean, in about 4 hours, they're stabilized. They get the temperature and they're stabilized.
okay, well,
The door open, but so, okay, that's what I wanted to know. So I'll get back to him and it's nice meeting you finally.
yes,
You
nice to
too.
meet you. It works perfect, too well.
Yeah. Okay, so, I want to have you check something, but can you go out to your truck to do it?
Yep,
I
sure.
gotta get you to check something.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I'm gonna run away from here real quick. I'll be right back.
No problem.
All right, I just wanted to get you away from them because it's not something that I really wanted to talk about in front of them.
Sure, I
Um,
appreciate that.
No, that's the way I work. It's, you
Yeah.
don't talk about stuff like this in front of a customer.
Sure.
So, now, the thing is that it really doesn't matter that it's plumbed backwards. It really doesn't.
Sure. Yeah, because that's how it was originally. So I just copied how it originally was.
Yeah, functionally, it's not really gonna matter. The thing is that warm air rises, cold air drops, so there's a little bit of difference in it. So ideally, you want it to inlet in the top always, and then go down because of that warm air rises,
Yep.
cold air drops factor. But it's such a small space; it's not really a big huge factor. The problem is, it looked like it was frosted about 4 rungs, and then the rest of them aren't frosted, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're low on charge.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I put another ounce in it just before you called, and waiting to see, how far up that goes.
How do you gauge an ounce? What do you?
I've got a scale.
Okay. And what the pressure change to?
Well, I've still got my gauges hooked up to the refrigerant tank, so I haven't checked the pressure yet.
I gotta turn this volume up. That's the problem. My volume's way down. I'm like trying to hear them. Okay, that's better now. Oh, the gauges aren't hooked up?
I've got them hooked up to my refrigerant tank for putting refrigerant
Right.
in, so
Got
I
it.
haven't disconnected them,
Yeah.
let the refrigerant out and check the pressure.
That's fine. Okay, so turn it off and let it stabilize and see. Well, first of all, did you put the Freon in per the tag
Yeah, that's what I started with as a baseline.
in the last time?
But yeah,
Right. And so and then what were do you remember the pressure?
I don't. I think it was if I'm not sure, but I think it was around 4 to 6 psi on the low side once it
Okay.
stabilized.
What was the high? Do you remember, or did you have a valve on?
I checked it, but I don't recall what it was.
Okay. So ideally what you want is 4 is way too low. 4 is adequate for Whirlpool, KitchenAid, GE,
Okay.
all the regular domestic refrigerators. They run it about 3 or 4 pounds to
Okay.
5. But on these refrigerators, they have to be up to 8 to 12 on the low side.
Okay.
the thing is it was freezing right from the start. So you need to check, where's her eggs located?
They were on the second shelf from the top.
Okay, this is not making sense, because if the evaporator is not fully
Frosted.
if it's not fully frosted, then that means it's not full.
Yeah, and I think that the frost is not getting to that thermostat, so the thermostat's not reading the temperature correctly and trying to overcompensate.
Well, remember the principle of this, you'll probably never forget this now. The reason that, and you would have caught it yourself knowing what I'm going to tell you right now. If it's ever plumbed wrong, you're going to know right away, because the reason that the first pass where the capillary comes in, the first pass, and then it goes down, and then that's where on the second pass over on the other side is where the thermostat leads mounted. Okay.
Yep.
So you got the capillary coming in, and then at the top left, and then it goes down to the next pass, and over on the right side of that second pass is where that thermostat leads is. Now, the reason that that's important,
Yep.
and that's why we have an issue here, because it never is shutting off, and it's not because it's what you think. The reason is because, and I'm going to use just simple terms, thermodynamics. The capillary tube is a hot gas,
Mhm.
and it converts to a bigger tube, which is, this is tiny, and so the pressure inside is really high, 125 pounds, and it's hot. So when it goes into a bigger tube, pressure and temperature are directly related. So if pressure drops, because it's going to, this tiny tube's got a lot of pressure in it. When it lets go into
Yep.
this big evaporator, 5/16, it's like there's no pressure anymore. It drops dramatically in pressure, 8 to 12 pounds from 125, and the temperature drops. That's where cooling actually happens,
Yes.
because the pressure drops and so does the temperature dramatically. So if you got that inletting right there where the capillary tube is, that's the coldest spot in the whole evaporator.
Yep.
So when you get over here to the second run, this is really cold. It's
Yeah.
frosted down here, but not as cold as it is on the first run. So with that
Sure.
thermostat lead attached to
That's
that
right.
first run, that's why it's so cold, it won't let it run as long. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if it's not running
Well,
as long,
yeah.
it's not going to get too cold. We don't have enough Freon in there to even explain this, except that it's plumbed backwards. Thermostat's on the wrong end of the evaporator right now.
Yeah.
So the thermostat lead, if you're going to keep the capillary at the bottom inlet, then you're going to need to relocate the thermostat lead down about the same distance as it is from the top.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Now there's two ways you can do this. You can relocate the capillary and the suction line. I don't think I'd want to do that, because now
Sure.
you got to open up, dump the system, and you got to resolder everything. And I don't think I would personally want to do it.
Mhm.
So it's safe to relocate. There's not that dramatic of a difference, because there is going to be warmer air in the top of the refrigerator, the evaporator. It's going to be warmer air than it is going to be at the bottom, because cold air drops.
Yep.
So it might be that it's still not going to be cold enough. They'll have to turn it up. You see what I'm saying? 'Cause
Sure.
that thermostat is designed for that temperature at the top.
Yes.
This fan circulating the air, because it is different temperature. In any refrigerator, it could be 32 at the bottom, and it can be 36 or 37 at the top. There's like 4 or 5 degree temperature difference. But it shouldn't be that
Yep.
dramatic to where they can't just turn it up. And there's 7 numbers or 10 on the thermostat.
I think. Let's see. I took a picture. Let me take a look. I try to remember
It's not
now.
really critical. I'll just say it this way.
There, 7.
Yeah. Okay. So mid setting is
That's
3.5. So if
Yep.
they have to run it up to 4 or 5, I would leave them with that idea that, look, I'm going to relocate this, and you may run it at 4 or 5, but if it's not cold enough, just turn it half a setting. Don't
Yep.
go 4 to 5. Go 4.5.
Sure.
Just get it to where it's right for you, and then leave it. You'll have to figure out what that is once it stabilizes.
Okay.
There's no issues. There's no issues. There's no problems. It's just you'll need to make sure where it's accurate. So every thermostat is a plus or minus a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're kind of just not explaining what you did wrong, but just making up for it with relocating it. I don't think I would tell them that you hooked them up wrong.
Okay.
Unless they already heard you make one comment. You made one comment that's backwards. But if they don't, I just would leave that alone, because otherwise you're going to have to replumb it, and that's going to be a pain in the ass. So say you need to make an adjustment.
All right. Well, I'll charge it up more.
Say again?
Yeah, I'll charge it up more and move that thermostat.
Yeah, and just tell them that sometimes you don't get the right amount of Freon in from the beginning, and you're sorry. It was only 4 pounds, and it needs to be 8 to 12. And then, why is it freezing then? Because it might make sense to them that it shouldn't cool as much, which is really what it should be. But the thermostat leading the wrong place is making it stay on so long, it's freezing, which is really weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
That should solve it. If anything, and it doesn't, and they just have more pop, you're just gonna have to reverse it if you come back again.
Sure. Yeah. If it comes down to that, I'll do that.
Yeah. But
all right.
If you do put the goop on, the heat absorption, do you have that?
Yep.
Yeah. Make sure you put on those aluminum joints.
Yes.
Soldering it, resoldering it, you just definitely don't want to have a problem.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your input. All right.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
During the video there, you saw how I deal with somebody. I knew that he didn't know what was wrong and what he was doing perfectly, and no tech does. Most, we're not perfect, but I was trying to save him from doing a lot more work, but I knew that it probably wasn't going to work, and I don't like to do things that way. I like to fix things properly, but not being out there and being in Washington, he was, and I was in San Diego. I wanted to take it one step at a time and see if we could get this resolved for the customer first and foremost, that they have no more freezing. This was after he had already done the restoration. This is the problem that I'm having is techs in different states, getting them, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And then I'm having this difficulty from a distance. Usually I can get to the end of it and get it resolved. In fact, most of the time I do. Occasionally I have, he was really easy to work with. He was, just down to earth and listened to, and was curious about solving it and wanting to know and learn. So that's the perfect situation for me, that they actually listen to what I'm talking about, and I explained it to them at the same time. It's pretty much a training session on the job, basically. But in going into this, I saw right away when I saw it, and I don't like to react too strongly, just be down to earth with them. But I saw right away when I saw the evaporator that it was all installed wrong, upside down. Not the evaporator itself, but the capillary tube was routed down to the bottom. You can't do that. And then he said, that's the way it was no, it wasn't. And that's what techs will do. That's what we do with our parents and we do with everybody. Oh, it was that way. you know, it's just a common defense mechanism. But what I need is I need somebody just to be honest with me. So it would have been better if he just left that out of there, because that bothers me when they say that, because it's not true. It doesn't come from the factory that way. See, you can't pull the wool over my eyes, because I've worked on thousands of them, and not one of them is backwards, installed backwards, capillary down at the bottom and suction at the top. It's just, but it's really important that be the case, that it's plumbed properly, because in this case, he's icing up down at the bottom. Thermostat's attached to the top. It can't sense the coldness, and that's this application. Not all thermostats are mounted on the evaporator, but in this application, thermostats are the proper temperature to sense the evaporator to shut off when the evaporator is a certain temperature. So if you're sensing the evaporator in the wrong place, it's not cold enough yet, because the frost has to go all the way to the top in the Freon, and there's not enough Freon in the system in this case, because he left a small leak, was the end result, as well, as being plumbed improperly. So the evaporator is not getting cold enough, and it's not going to shut off. So it sits there because it's frosting down there at 0 degrees on the inlet, and several passes up, but not filling up the evaporator. But because it's running all the time, because it can't shut off, it's going to start freezing stuff down lower. Okay, and that's what was happening. It was an odd situation, but once I looked at the evaporator, I knew right away. That's where I was kind of gentle with him, and not overreacting. And then seeing if we couldn't get it to sense quicker by putting it down at the bottom. It's kind of teaching him a lesson at the same time, doing it step by step, to where he didn't have to replumb it. He didn't have time right there while he was there. He had already let me know that he wasn't going to be able to be there that long. So I just wanted to get this resolved for the customer, and that's why I went this direction. Typically, I wouldn't. I just want to get it resolved and get out of their house and not have to go back, and have it operational properly. So it did resolve the freezing problem. He did mount it down lower, as low as he could. The thermostat lead's not tremendously long on these, because they're designed to go to the top. So, the lead's it's not a really, really long lead where it's supposed to go to the bottom, and long enough to do that. So he got it down there as far as he could, but it did start shutting off, and it wasn't freezing anymore. But he had to follow up again in a couple weeks, because it was low on Freon again. He left a leak in the joint. He had this thing was with a torch, was on there too many times, and the joints, the copper inlets to the evaporator, these are ones that are manufactured. There was 350. I found a new filler metal that's 900 degrees now, so it's a little better. But you have to use heat absorption paste, and he didn't use it. He said he had it, but apparently I know he didn't, because in the beginning, the first time he did it, because it had a small leak in it, and he just couldn't find it, as it turns out. And then he ended up with a back injury, and so wasn't able to go back. And this was like months and months later. So they finally gave up, and they moved on and bought new units. That's what they were trying to avoid, and that's what I was trying to help them avoid. We were set up there. I was going to fly out there. This would be in the fifth one that I've done. I've had to fly out to different cities and clean up after the tech. There's another video on my YouTube, on the channel there, that you can see that I cleaned up a real disaster in Colorado Springs. I had one in Aspen too. It was just terrible. So this is what I don't want to have to do, is go out there and clean up after this. And the customer doesn't need this either. but they're incurring my cost of my flight and more labor. I'm not doing it free. And out of state, I mean, who does that? Nobody does. And techs complain about driving 35 miles. I gotta get on the plane with all my tools. So I just do what I gotta do because I want to back up this this repair, and I feel bad that they keep getting service techs that just aren't up to snuff. He was really good, and he was a pleasure to work with. You get some that are just, they won't even listen to me, and I just like, I can't help you. If you can't listen and try to work through the problem, if he would have gotten this leak fixed, we would have been done. But then he ended up with a back injury and he couldn't get back, and so, and then they thought, you know what, if you come out here and it's still, see, they have a question that I'm even going to be able to, which I would be able to solve it. But, and I have in every case 4 other examples where I had cloud state, but they don't know that. All they know is that him and I are struggling to get this thing working, and they just are done. I mean, it was like over a year that he was dealing with this. And they were very patient because they were out of state at their, another home that they live in another state. So they were gone most of the time. So it was not even a big deal. Because but when they were back there, they wanted the refrigerator working. I mean, they paid for it to work. So this is what I'm looking for, techs that you know, you don't have to be perfect, and but are willing to work with me if there is a problem. Just like this. This is a perfect example. Some of the times I'm going to do something a little different, like we did here. This isn't the normal avenue that I would go. It's suggesting relocating the thermostat lead, but I wanted to get them operational instead of, because he didn't have time to braze the lines in the proper positions. So just get them operational, and because it wouldn't have shut off, no matter how low you turned it, it just wasn't going to shut off because they'd already tried that. It was just, there was not enough freon in it either. So the evaporator wasn't getting cold enough at all. Even on the lowest setting, it wasn't going to shut off. So, but it was getting 0 degrees on the evaporator on the inlet, down at the bottom, about 3 or 4 runs. So that was enough to, if it just kept running, it was going to freeze stuff down there. It's kind of odd, but thermodynamically, it makes sense. And this is where techs struggle also, is a diagnosis of stuff like this, where it doesn't make sense. But that's why I walk through it, just like even explaining it. And then you can say, oh, okay, yeah. So it's just experience. So I just wanted to explain that at the end here, because that's not my normal course of doing something that's not like it's supposed to be, but that was the reason. So I hope you got something out of the video. I not only am supplying these restoration kits worldwide, so if there's techs out there that see this and you want to become part of this, and install and have great jobs with customers that want to do the restoration in your area, and I sell parts to, contact me. I've got 2 directories of service companies that I want to fill up with in different states, different areas, in different states. So when I have a customer contact, because I have them contact me constantly, they don't want to get rid of their old unit. Contact me. I'm going to vet you. I'm not going to give you a hard time. I just want to make sure you didn't just start yesterday. I'm not going to ask for paperwork or anything like that. It's the old way with me. I'm man of your word. But I can also tell by talking to you whether you're full of it or not. So don't even try that with me. But if you want to work, if you want jobs, typically these restorations are per unit, somewhere about labor-wise, because that's all you're going to deal with is the labor. I'm going to supply the parts, and they're exact parts. It's not an issue there. But you're looking at somewhere between $1,200 and $2,000 per unit labor. It's a big job. So it's anywhere between I used to say 4 and 12 hours, but I'm not even going to say 4 anymore. Typically, it's going to take about 6 hours to do one restoration minimum. So you're getting good labor. Customers, it's a big job. Okay. And it takes experience. It takes expensive tools. So it's not an hourly thing. I keep saying this in every video, but it's not. It's a flat rate. So it's $1,200 to $2,000 depending on the situation, what state you're in, or whatever. Very likely. I don't want techs ripping them off because I'll never give you another one. And customers will share that with me. In fact, I just tell them right up front. Tell them if it's going to be way over what I'm telling you, because I tell them the range too. So they're already primed, expecting that kind of a labor charge from you. So that makes it easier for you to sell too. You just tell them what it is. So it's going to be $1,400. You don't have to hold off. You don't have to worry about what the response. They're already ready for it. Okay. So it makes it easy. It's pre-sold. It's sold before they even contact me when they find my video, because they're like, oh, thank God we don't have to pay $18,000 for a new one. We can get it restored. They're already sold. They just want to know the details. So that's where I need techs and service companies out here in different states, different areas in different states to contact me so I can refer them to you right off the bat. And you go out there, I ship the parts out, you go out there, you do it. It's one good day's work. Okay. And then you got another customer too, with other things that they may have in their home, plus the SubZero in the future, if there's any other issues. So contact me. Also, if you're lacking, it's okay. Everybody has to learn, and it takes time to do that. Experience takes years. So don't hesitate, even if you're lacking a little bit. If you have the basic skills. The other thing too is if you think you really need to learn more, I've got my appliance repair tech school, and we can modify it, and I'll do that with anybody. Modify it to specialize at whatever you want, to concentrate on more. If it's sealed system, we'll just do sealed system. Price isn't going to change, but it's appliancerepairtechschool.com, appliancerepairtechschool.com, and it's on there. My contact information's on there as well. Contact me and we'll get you trained better. You can see I'm really an easy-going person. I get a little intense on some of these videos and stuff. It's just because I'm tired of garbage. People not doing stuff right, and they just don't care. It's more so now than ever before, and it's just unbelievable. I got to fly out to different states because these guys can't do the job right, and then they destroy it and leave it hanging there and try to charge them another $1,000 for destroying it. That's what I'm talking about, that stuff. Unbelievable. There's another video, and you see it on my channel. So I'm a great teacher. I love helping out somebody that doesn't have all the skills, and I can learn something too. Okay, that's the way I am. I'm not a know-it-all, but I do have a lot of experience, and I can share that and make your job easier, a lot quicker. Because learning it by yourself without somebody, it's just going to take a lot longer. And then it's frustrating. And believe me, I know the feeling. Because that's the way I had to learn. Because nobody, other techs are not going to help you. They're like, they would rather you not be able to do it because then the customer will come to them. And it's cutthroat out there. You guys know what I'm talking about. So that's the reason I did this the way I did this. This particular repair was because there was different circumstances, and the bottom line was get the customer satisfied so it's not freezing anymore. Get the thing filled up, and we'll address the other. There has to be a leak if it's low and freon. Okay, so I knew that was going to come up as well, and we will cross that when we crossed it. But they would be able to notice it starting to affect the cooling, and then be able to get out there and address it so they wouldn't lose the cooling, because it's a slow leak. So you're going to be able to react before it loses the cooling all the way, especially on these SubZeros. it's amazing how they can almost lose like 7/8 of the Freon, and they're still cooling. It's just it's because it's sitting behind that panel there, and the air's flowing through, just like it freezing, and it's not full of Freon. Most refrigerators are not going to do that, okay? But these SubZeros will do that kind of thing. So this has already been long enough. I just wanted to explain why I went the path that I went with him, because I knew what his abilities were and I knew what his situation was, and wasn't displayed on the video. I had talked to him prior to that. He didn't have the time to do any major things while he was there. So thanks for watching. Please do subscribe. There's a little portion right after this that you're going to still watch. It's just informative of getting a hold of me and all that kind of stuff. And if you need help, contact me. I'm more than happy to help. And please do subscribe. I think I said that, or maybe I didn't, but please do subscribe. I'm trying to get as many subscribers. Subscribers, it doesn't mean you're paying anything. It's a terrible word they used. It's just that you like it. It's basically what it means. You like the video, or you like the channel. So, but it helps me get closer to monetization, which is, I can't do service anymore. So I'd be very appreciative if you guys would help me out so I can pay my bills. So I'll do anything I can to help you out. Like I said, let me know if you need help. Okay. All right. Once again, it's Michael Riley, ABA Appliance, and contact me if you need help. Okay. All right. Take care. Thank you.